Welcome to Marketing Insights with Murie Design Group. I am Mac Christian, and this is James Albert.
Hello, everyone.
Howdy. And so for this week, we wanted to talk about some basics of social media. It's social media is a monster topic. There's no way we can cover it all, right? I mean, this is what we want to try to do is inform a new or small business owner. This is somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to jump in and like, I'm going to figure out everything on social media ads. This is just to give you a basic idea to where you have enough information to be dangerous. You can get in there, and each platform has different kind of things, and we can jump into those later on. But for right now, like, you just want to
Almost,
jump in.
almost kind of like trying to make it so that the fear isn't there, so you can just get in and start. Because everyone's got to start with baby steps.
I'm so happy you do this with me because I would have still been talking. And
I'm just gonna interrupt you every once in a while. Just kidding.
no, it's like, no, it wasn't like an interruption. It was more like a parachute. Like, Mac, stop. Because thank you. Yeah. So some numbers to give you on social media right now. There are 3.5 billion users on social media. Of those, Facebook holds the crowd, right? There's 2.498. Let's just say what it is. It's 2.5 billion users, followed by YouTube with 2 billion. And dropping on down the list, you have Instagram with 1 billion, and Reddit with 430 million, Snapchat with 398 million, Twitter with 386 million, and Pinterest with 366 million. There's going
Which
to
is
be
still a very large number if you think of all those eyeballs.
there's still huge numbers, and there's actually going to be a test after this. Your computer
Uh-oh.
will explode if you don't get all of those numbers right. It is what happens. So, key numbers: 3.5 billion users on social media. It's a big deal. We wrote an article this week, and it relates to how to put this together into an ad campaign. The applications or platforms that we put together, and we pulled these together in a way to show you sort of the demographics of each platform. And for those of you not in the know, a platform is just our way of saying like it's a thing, right? It's Facebook is a platform, LinkedIn is a platform, Instagram is a platform. It's just a different app. And we like to use language, right, that confuses people, so we say platform. So that's all that means. Now, what we wanted to give you was an idea of why you would use a certain piece. So why would you use Facebook versus Instagram versus Pinterest? And I hear these things a lot. Like, oh, what kind of ads are you using? Well, where are you placing them? And someone will say, oh, I'm using Pinterest. And some people just do that because it's kind of an experiment. And what we're trying to say is there's ways to do this where you're actually targeting the audience that you want to chase down. So for instance, we can drill down to this a little bit more. The all around, I want to talk to everybody platform is Facebook. Like, it just has everybody.
It has the numbers, and that's if you're
Yeah.
going just for sheer numbers and you don't want to try and target and really whittle down to make it more affordable or the best return, then your best bet is to probably start with Facebook just because of the numbers.
Yeah. And the one difficult part about it is Facebook holds so much of the viewer audience that ads are almost becoming ubiquitous on the platform, where they're getting overlooked. A lot of people are saying now, like, oh, I'm just so sick of the ads, but this is how the software gets good, is they make money, and so they can reinvest in new software and new technology and stuff. And it is, Google is an advertising platform, Facebook is an advertising. Every one of these things eventually has to make money, and that's going to be done through advertising. So the downside of Facebook is there's a crap ton of competition. So when you're using Facebook, the best thing that you can do is target very, very specifically. Big business can spend money on big targets, right? But if you are a new and small business, target very specifically, because that's going to be the best bang for your buck. That's how you save your money. That's it. If you are in Nampa, Idaho, or wherever, You target very, very specifically to that region and localize customers, or if you're an online retailer or online product producer, something like that, try to specify your audience to where you don't have to compete as highly for the price point. That's just the things.
And you're kind
Face,
of referring to setting a demographic within that platform. So you
yeah,
can show the why you would choose a platform, and then now you're saying once you're in that platform, you get to kind of choose who those ads go to.
yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And for that, we can start right off and talk about Facebook, since it's the 40 million ton gorilla in the room. Um, it has 69% of the United States population. Just going to pause on that. 69% of the United
That's where
States
you should point.
population has
You should
Facebook.
point to the numbers. Or sorry, this side. Point to the numbers there. 69.
69%.
Wherever that number shows up, that's where.
We're putting it there.
Okay, it's gonna be right. It's right here in front of my face. It's gonna be the 69 million.
Okay, let's try it. Let's do it. 69% of the population in the United States has Facebook. I really want to dub in some like "Here Comes the Chief" music. Isn't that what that song's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Facebook has minimum pricing. $32 is their minimum. We'll wrap this up at the end as to what minimums and maximums are. So Facebook is the monster in the room. Now, when you get to things like LinkedIn, you have a little bit. We targeted all the demo or the statistics that we put in here out of total U.S. population. So if you go through and read the article, you will see those types of numbers. Now, in the United States, 24% of males and 29% of females are on LinkedIn. Within that, it's your base for using LinkedIn are going to be typically professionals, and typically a higher percentage of earners of $75,000 and above per year. So these are high salaried, educated, professional individuals, and that's your kind of typical LinkedIn audience. Even things like blatant advertising are kind of shunned within that audience. So a lot of it has to do with providing useful information with it. And you're a pretty heavy LinkedIn user too, right, James?
Yeah, I like LinkedIn a lot.
LinkedIn is a great platform for that, and it's a great platform for getting to know other professionals. Some people utilize LinkedIn as a pretty hard sales driver. A lot of people are starting to push back on that, because a lot of people are just popping up on your messages all the time, like, "Hey, you want to buy some shoes? Hey, you want to buy
I
some
think it's
gloves?
kind of
Hey."
because the LinkedIn is more of the business one.
Yeah.
Not to say that these others aren't, but it seems to have more of a business focus compared to say Facebook and some other ones where maybe is a different focus. So I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah, and I get it. LinkedIn is a pretty heavy driver or my inbox fills up pretty heavily with software and IT solutions.
yes.
I should be able to have the most secure cyber environment ever, if I was to go through my list. And that and leads generation. There's a lot of lead generation tools being hawked on LinkedIn. So I think
Yeah.
everybody's kind of fed up with those. Instagram, owned by Facebook, has 43% of the United States male audience and 31% of the United States female audience. I'm totally adding this in with the graphics. This is going to look awesome.
My favorite's going to be when it's literally over our faces. That's kind of infographic I'm
Oh,
looking for.
no, that'll be Twitter. Twitter's coming in over the forehead.
That's
Uh,
fine.
all right. So Instagram is it's an image specific platform, where Facebook is where you fight with your relatives about politics. Instagram is where you show pictures of
Food,
food.
surroundings, people.
Instagram is where you show a plate full of hominy.
Yeah, that's probably the only place you'll see that.
I've never had
Pinterest,
common.
maybe.
I've never had it.
Good
so
stuff. I like it.
so when you put together ads on Instagram, they need to be to match the setup of Instagram. It needs to be an image. Your ads on Instagram will cost you between 21 cents and $2 a click is the kind of the average, and it depends on what you put into it. We have all the information for that listed on our article. So if you want to know more of the details, jump in there, check it out. Twitter, yes, Twitter.
Which it has a new
24% of the male population and 21% of the female population in the United States uses Twitter.
well, and recently too, it's become a platform for politics and some other stuff. So it's definitely has its purposes.
Twitter has become very political. Yes, it is a thing. Um, with Twitter, with Instagram, a lot of these sort of applications, you're seeing a younger Snapchat, which we'll talk about in a second. They're becoming kind of the focus of the younger populations. The one thing I thought was funny with Snapchat, I believe it was they actually listed the demographics of like 18 and younger, which is kind of like that's not really let no.
It is.
like
It totally is.
you can have
I have
it, but
I have
I just mean as far
two
as like
kids under 18 that are Snapchat fanatics, so I know that it is. There's a demographic there now. Now, marketing to them is a different. We're not even talking about that. But
it's a hairy thing, right? Because there's a lot of liability in there, and especially like letting. I'm not judging, but I don't think could ever trust my children to use an application in a way that I would say, okay, I'm good with that.
right, I mean
That's
that's
just
all. That's
me.
too. Yeah, I agree. It's very tough to monitor that.
My friends have trustworthy children. Mine are more like me, so it's it's scary for me. So, anyways, your applications or your platforms that have uh, a lot of visuals, primarily photos and stuff like that, it's kind of moved over towards a younger audience. So as we talk about these kind of content-driven social media platforms, Facebook has a lot of content. LinkedIn has a lot of content. YouTube is sort of that mid-range. It's like the millennial of the software platforms. The more content you get, the older your audience tends to be, and the more visual in nature it is, then the younger your audience tends to be. And evidently, if your visual content deletes and disappears for a while, your content gets more young. So those are some things to keep in mind. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram all kind of live in the same world. They all kind of have a similar demographic base, except for Instagram has a little more of it. They have about 20% more of the population than Twitter and Snapchat. They all offer advertising services. They all have different advertising services. Snapchat.
And they're also,
Oh yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong on this one because I'm just going from my own recollection, but isn't those also a little more focused on mobile users?
Yeah, those are definitely more mobile focused. The one I'm just going to say off the top, for a newer small business, you're probably not going to use Snapchat just because their minimum is $3,000 a month. Um, if you have that kind of capital in your pocket for a newer, smaller business,
Or the business
new or small.
is that platform's perfect for it, that might be worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
If you have something that is perfect for that, yeah, use it. I mean, every situation is different, but I think your standardized small new business, I mean, that's a scary number to look at, is $3,000 a month for something like that. So, and you might have the budget for it. That's excellent as well. I'm just trying to, with the title of the article being "Marketing on the Cheap," that would not be
right.
very cheap. So, so those are some things to keep in mind. So then, you have your other channels like Pinterest. Pinterest is a really, I actually was kind of like, oh, what? When I saw that, when I was, have gone through the data. With Pinterest, you have 42% of the female population using Pinterest, with a measly 15% of the male population. I feel like I'm a trendsetter there because I love Pinterest, but I do all kinds of weird crafts, but there's not many guys on it. So,
Well, it's all what's in your board. Let's see what's in your board.
well, majority, yeah, my board is there's a lot of crafts that have to do with fly fishing. So
And that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of hobbies and specific crafts would be a great one to advertise on those.
yeah, Pinterest is great for unique products, crafts. If you're solving a unique problem, those are really, especially like your homemade kind of stuff. People love that on Pinterest. Um, Pinterest is fundamentally a crafty site that is primarily filled with female consumers. That is that's just the numbers. Doesn't mean that you there isn't a male audience on there. That by no means that doesn't mean anything. The United States is a large population, and
Well, and that would
15% of the male
exclude you.
population, huh?
That would exclude you, and you
It
don't
would
want that.
exclude me. So, and 15% of the United States population in males is still a pretty healthy number. It's a big country. YouTube next to Facebook is another powerhouse. With YouTube, you have 68% of the male population and 78% of the female population using it. My mom and grandparents that we know all use it to like find recipes and fix stuff that breaks in the house. Like YouTube has everything.
That's what I use. Pretty much, I go to YouTube for everything. Now it's owned by Google, and I find myself going to YouTube a lot.
I've thrown away every fix-it book I've ever owned. Now that like everything's on YouTube. I've glued my kids' toys together, fixed the sink.
It makes me feel like the movie Matrix, where they just download something, they just watch this, and all of a sudden you know how to do it. That's what it makes me feel like.
Yes. Yeah, you can learn kung fu in 5 minutes.
You might not be good at it, but hey,
Yeah.
it's
And
great too for learning how to make drinks.
Unless it's neat.
Yeah, true.
So, by the way, what do you have over there? What is your beverage of choice?
I am drinking. I got a growler from a Meridian pub, Harp's Bar, and I just grabbed their Scotch ale.
Oh, perfect. I'm also doing Scotch, but not Scotch ale.
Not an ale. There you go.
Well, Glen Murie. My family's from there. So, well, not Glen Murie, Elgin Murie. Anyways, that's kind of our rundown on social media. You're going to have to dive into the numbers a little more, but it gives you an idea of user audiences. When you are placing ads on social media, you want to first figure out your demographic. Who is going to buy your product? Who do you want to target? Because I mean, you're going to have where your orders are coming from, and you also have places where you want to get into, right? You have people that currently buy your product, and you have people that you want to buy your product, and so that would be those are two different areas that you target, and you can do those very specifically. And most of these platforms they do fairly well at demographic targeting. You have to get in and mess around, and we can go into more detail. We've messed with all these, and we've done campaigns with this kind of stuff, but it's too much information to do in the amount of time that you can possibly ever want to stare at our faces on a screen. So we can dive into those at later dates. Some basics that you need to know before you kind of jump into setting an ad on social media. The biggest one is set your maximum. And on these, like Facebook can be tricky, right? You have a daily limit spend and you have a monthly limit spend, or you have a total campaign. It's total campaign limit spend. And so somebody might set a limit on there and it's like, oh, I only want to spend about $2,000 for this campaign. And that might be your daily limit. I've seen it done before, and you can blow yourself out of the water pretty fast if you set your daily limit to $2,000 and, something like that. So watch your maximums, set those.
I think that's like great advice, especially if you're just starting out doing it, because there's no way to it builds fast, and if you're not watching it or you haven't really put the the correct standards or guidelines on there for what you want out of it, it can hit you hard. And
Uh,
and hopefully, with what you're saying, there's ways that some of them hit you a lot harder than some of the other ones. But I think that just watching that is a great advice.
yeah, and especially, that's especially the case. Keeping in mind marketing on the cheap, new and small businesses. Chances are, if you have a marketing person, they're working on this. If you were handling this yourself, you really need to pay attention, and it can't be something that you do fast, because if you miss that maximum set, like I said, you could end up with thousands of dollars for a 24-hour run, and it can just blow you up. Um, in these cases, this is where it does kind of help to get a outside agency, a consultant, something along those lines. If you feel fairly comfortable with software, do that, jump in. Um, some other tips that we have are: use a call to action at all times, and I'm just going to say that that's marketing in general. You always typically want a call to action, whether it's to think about your product or to click on a link. There's always something you want the consumer to do. And like even Got Milk is an inferred call to action. They are asking you if you have milk in your fridge. It's not saying to buy milk from a particular producer. Do you have milk? And it's everything has a call to action, whether it's implied or whether it's tangible. So use think about what you want the marketing to do, the specific ad that you want, what you want it to achieve, and speak to that. The other thing is figure out some KPIs. Those are key performance indicators. With social media, you're going to have key performance indicators like click-through rate, conversions, impressions, engagement. Those
It's
are
almost an
all.
entire new article. I mean, there's so many within there in terminology, even across platforms too. Maybe is that some of them you'd want to. I mean, you could also look them up to make sure, but I think there's a lot of those that the terminology within them that you could kind of. I'm sorry for all the ums. The idea of the all those different pieces, you'd want to kind of figure out which ones you want to look at and track those for your KPIs. But I'm more referring to, and tell me if I'm wrong, Mac, but there's quite a bit of terminology there that might seem like it makes sense, like click through rate. Okay, so they click and then you're basically paying for them to continue on to it. But there's some that aren't maybe as easy, and that's just I think if you're starting out, just learning those, and you can look them up, you can research more on those. It's a separate article really to go through all those pieces.
Yeah, it takes some legwork to figure out what's important for particularly your individual company, right? So if you and you have to figure out what the campaign's goal is, right? And that's something that you should have before you even run through the campaign. You need to set the goal. Like, what do I want to do with this? I want to increase awareness. Do I want to move product? There's very few new to small businesses that want to just create awareness because they also want to move product because they're new and small. You can create awareness, but at the end of the game, you always want to move product. But at the same time, there are just campaigns like I brought up Got Milk, right? That's not, it's geared towards a product, but it's not like Homestead Brands milk. It's not, it's just it's more speaking to a brand or an idea, and it's just creating awareness to the product of milk. So there's different goals like that. I know this kind of seems there's a lot of gray area in this, is I guess what I'm getting to, and it's difficult to pin it down. But you need to decide some key metrics that you want. You like if you just want exposure, then you're talking about impressions, like how many eyeballs did I get on this thing? If you want people to go to your website, then you want your click-throughs. If you want people to buy your product, you want conversions. All those things are important in various degrees. Uh, you need to decide which ones are more important to you, and you have to evaluate early and often with social media. Like every day is probably too much because Saturday might be a better day than Monday, and you need that kind of test base to look at. But weekly is a definite, like, sit down and figure out what your campaign is doing, because this is your money you're talking about. And if you throw out an ad campaign and it's a dog, then you have to reevaluate that. The best case scenario is to have a couple campaigns running at the same time with multiple messages, or the same image where only the message changes, so that you're running an A/B test and it's the same picture, and one says "buy my junk" and one says "do you like it?" Do you like it would be a weird one. Anyways, run multiple messages so that you can evaluate, maybe this one works, maybe this one doesn't. And once you have the text that works, then you change the image. That's your standard A/B testing. Sometimes you can't do that on a budget, and you just got to shoot in the dark, right? So with social media ads, these are the basics. This is as much as the we can give, to where we can give a good idea in a readable article as well, because we're going to break down into these at a later date. So.
And I think too, if they have any questions, you're there available to answer any of those.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. So reach out to us at Murie Design Group if you have any kind of questions. We're always willing to sit and chat, and that's kind of what we do. We like helping people out. So feel free to reach out for something like that. Anyhow, so this is Murie Design Group Marketing Insights. Signing off. I am Matt Christian and
James Albert. Thanks a lot, guys.
Happy trails. Have a good weekend, and enjoy quarantine.